All right. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I will first like to go with a poll. And from the poll, we go to introducing our facilitator for today. And after introducing our facilitator for today, he takes over and talks to us, about share some insight about APIs for product managers. So quickly, I'm going to launch this poll now, and I'll leave it up for about 1 minute. I look forward to as many of us filling it. So the poll is up now, and basically the poll is asking for your product management background. Your product management background. What background do you have as a product manager? Are you a technical? Will you say you're a technical product manager, or you have a design background, or you are from the business background? You came from business development analyst, or others that we didn't mention, or you're a fresh kid on the block. Okay, you just came into product management straight off the bat like that. Or you're not a product manager, you're just passing through. No, voila, you're also welcome. Okay, so just let's know where the poll. We're 45 seconds into the poll now. And yeah. All right, the poll is still running. I'm seeing some interesting info here. Okay, keep it coming. All right, thank you so much. Now, here are the results. So we have about 44% of the class saying they're from a business background. Interesting. Then we have a few folks from design. And there's also a lot of fresh kids on the block. Yeah, you're welcome. And there's sense of technical peer. Yeah. All right. That's great. Thank you so much. That will help guide the direction of the whole masterclass. So yes, without any further ado, let me introduce our facilitator for today in the person of Ayotunde Salako. Ayotunde Salako, with more than 4 years of experience in digital product management and design across digital marketing, health, payments, and the payment automation sector. Ayotunde has worked collaboratively with agile teams to manage, design, and develop products. He also deploy and operate systems, automate and streamline operations and processes, build and maintain tools for deployments, monitoring, and operations. He has done all of those awesome things. His lifelong passion is to develop and manage needed scalable solutions and the teams responsible, keeping in mind the importance of data and its use beyond the present. Currently, Ayotunde is the product manager for APIs and ecosystem at Global Accelerate Limited, and today is here to share with us from his wealth of experience, about APIs for product managers. How can you leverage it to bring the best out of your products? Welcome, Ayotunde. Yeah, you can jam your hands together, jam your virtual hands together.
All right. Hi, Favor. Thank you for having me. Before I proceed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So I'm Ayotunde Salako by name, and I'm an API product manager at Global Accelerate. I also manage digital payment products. So today I'll be taking us APIs for product managers, and there are two sides to this. Unfortunately, we won't be able to cover the two sides, even though I'll try to, but we won't be able to cover the two sides to APIs for product manager and API product management. The second part, which is API product management, is very robust, and it's not something we can, go over in one single masterclass. It's something I would have loved to be very extensive, and by the end of this training, we'll know if we are going to have another session on what's it called now? On API product management itself. So we'll know by the end of this training, by the end of this class. So just sit tight and ride with me. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. So please just let me know, favor, or once you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Awesome. Okay. So API product management. I can see in the is that me or someone else?
I believe that's someone else, but I've restricted the unmute right now.
All right. Okay. So like I was saying, I can see in the comment box, folks have already given us the meaning of APIs, application programming interface. Really, that full meaning does not really say what it does. I mean, to a layman, but we are going to look into it today so that the next time your developers are mentioning the term APIs or they are making references to other jargon in that space, you won't seem like you are feeling intimidated or you don't understand these guys. You know, you should understand them. If you are going to work with developers, you should be able to appreciate what they do. You should be able to flow at their, should I say frequency now? Yeah, frequency. You should be able to relate with them. Yeah, so that you guys can have a very smooth work relationship. So that you can also uh, have some influence, you know, and respect from the team. You understand? So it's very important. You don't just stick to user interviews, user research, design, business analysis, product requirement documents, Jira, and all those things. You don't just stick to that. Understand these developers, appreciate what they do. And part of the ways you can appreciate what they do is the step you have taken today to actually take part in this masterclass, right? So I would love to get a lot of engagement today. So I'm going to be throwing a lot of things at us, and that's it. So the first thing I would like to talk about is not even related to what we are going to mention today, but it's very important to me because uh, it's good if you are security conscious. So I'm going to talk about security, right? I'm going to talk about security, and sorry, let me let me let me open a. So I want to show something because we are product managers, whether we like it or not, we have to get technical at a point in time, right? And then we are in charge of a lot of information, trade secrets, and so on and so forth. So it's very important we know how to guard this information, these secrets, so that we don't fall into the wrong hands and put us in trouble. So I'm going to demonstrate something to you now. Yeah. So I'm going to type. So let's assume this is my password. I saved this password in the browser, right? And I have my laptop open. Someone happened to stroll into the room while I was not on seat and saw this page open on my laptop and was wondering what's going on. This guy's password is here. I can access it. Aside the fact that the person can go to your, because it's saved, the password is saved in your browser. Aside the fact that the person can go to your settings and open your settings and open your password and try to view that password. Unfortunately, if the person doesn't know your system password, your login password to your system, they won't be able to do anything. But if they do know, they'll be able to retrieve this password. But there's another way they can retrieve it easily. Just highlight this and go to inspect elements. I'm sure you would have seen some of your developers open this console at a point in time. You might be wondering what's going on, or you accidentally open this and you're wondering, oh my God, I've broken the laptop. I've messed it up. It's nothing to be worried about. So all they just have to do is come to the section where you have the component controlling the password field. Just change password to text. and they have your password. So you want to note whether you're at work or at home. If you don't give any authorized access to your laptop to anybody, please make sure you always lock your laptop if you are not on seat so that nobody is able to access it. We used to do something at work. We do something at work, it's a prank. So if anybody's system is open and they are not on seat, we go to their laptop, go to the department Skype group and type something random and funny. You might say, Sunday, I love you so much. Will you be my vow? You know, funny things that will make them know that you are not supposed to leave your laptop open. I can remember it's the experience of one of my friends at work. Our boss walked in and saw the laptop open. He was about to send an email to the CEO that I will not leave my laptop open again. You know, that was when the lady walked in and saw it like, oh my God. So it's very important. Information security, very important. Very, very important. Please don't take it for granted. Not just your company's information, your own information as well. That's one. Two, if you are copying a link from any website, don't just paste directly into your browser, please. So take for instance, I have something like so I can just go ahead and copy this, copy link, and paste into my browser, or even see the link is very long. So let's hopefully there's a link here that is long or okay, yeah. So something like this, you know, you're in a website and you saw a link, you just want to copy it and paste in your browser. Please, before you do that, why don't you try and please, who is James that is trying to take control of the screen? Favor, please, can you address?
I'll address that.
So I just copy this and I paste in my browser and I press enter. It could be dangerous. You might just think you are copying the link innocently to another resource or to another website. But at the end of this link, there could be strings of characters attached that could mean something else detrimental, that could be fatal to your person, you know, and then that way phishing can go on your laptop. Anything could have happened behind the scene with that unique string at the back of the URL you thought you copied. So a better way to be safe in this kind of situation is to copy, paste the link here and see for yourself what you are pasting in your browser. If it seems suspicious, please don't bother visiting the link if you think it seems suspicious. And if you are technical enough and can read through URLs, fine, all the best. But if you are suspicious about the link, please don't paste it in your browser and press enter. Very important, right? So I'm keen on security because if you are going to be controlling resources that mean a lot to your product, probably being serviced, probably your product is servicing like 1 million users. You don't want to joke with those information. So that's why I'm taking the time to actually address this. I hope it helps someone out there. That's it on security. I also have something on okay, yeah. So I also want to know maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people who are familiar with some APIs or API products. So if you are here, you're in the comment section, please indicate if you have any familiarity with API platforms. If you are an API product manager yourself, or you are very much familiar with APIs and the uh, details involved in it, I would love to see you in the comments. And, you know, just type there. And if you are bold enough, you know, you can mention you can raise your hand so that I can, you know, call you to say something about APIs, basically. So anyone wants to give it a try? Favor, is anyone raising his hand or hands?
Not yet. but I'm looking forward to somebody dropping something in the chats or also raising their hands. Yeah. Okay, so somebody monoclad.
Okay, Samuel is saying mono and plaid, right?
Okay.
Yeah, those are API products. Those are API as a product services, they sell APIs, not necessarily to consumers or end users, but to other developers or companies who might need those APIs in order to serve their end users better. Right, cool. Yeah, Smile ID for identity verification. Good. Yeah, who else? Samuel. Who else? Samuel, I'd like you to stop there. Who else? So I want to hear from someone who manages an API product. If you're in the house, just indicate. Let me know, please. All right. Let's hope someone comes up later to indicate. Yeah. Okay. Google extensions are API. Google extensions are API. Yeah. To some extent, they can be. Yes, they can be to some extent. I won't say yes and I won't say no. John. Yeah. Oh, Ayonyi, sorry, I'm not sure I pronounced your name very well. Vovwe, you're an API product manager. Favor, please, can you unmute the mic? Let Vovwe speak.
Yes, I've asked her or E to unmute. Okay.
Hello,
Hi,
can you hear me?
good afternoon. I can hear you. What do you do?
I'm a product manager at Cradle.
At where?
Cradle, the startup,
Credo.
the payments, the
C-R-E-D.
payment, CREDO.
Okay, Predo. Okay. What do you do at Predo?
I'm the lead product manager there.
Oh, great. Awesome. You manage APIs, right?
Yeah, that from the yes, basically it's a very complicated thing, honestly. I'm from the
Yeah.
back end to front end with the external documentation, all of those things, being able to ensure that other external developers can integrate your endpoints and your APIs using the keys and authorization, all those many things. Depending on whether it's internal or external. Yeah.
Okay, you said Predo, right? Predo.
Yeah, CREDO. You can check it on LinkedIn.
All right, awesome. So Credo Advisory, if I'm correct.
No. It's great. I'll paste the link on the chat.
Please do. Maybe we'll use as a case study. That's what I'm asking.
No.
Yeah. So now let's get started, right? So don't fret. You are fine with or without a technical background, right? Because the major challenge I've seen folks in product management, the major challenge the major issue I've heard them raise is the fact that they are not technical. It's not a barrier to being an awesome product manager, to being the best you can be. But what having a technical background or understanding the basics of the technology of your product, what it will do for you is that it's an asset for you, right? It's an asset. You would love yourself for it. Let me just put it that way. And then you command more respect. You would you'll be more in demand. Yeah, let me put it that way. You'll be more in demand, basically. So we have here 3 circles intersecting in the middle around here, and that's you in the middle there, right? And you have business, you have design, and you have technology. So this is like the holy trinity of PM skills. And most times what you see is that product managers are mostly in 2 of these sections. So you find most product managers here, business and design, right? This is where you find most product managers. Unfortunately, I don't have my data to back it up right now, but judging by the trend I've seen from folks I know in product management, most are in this realm, business and design. And you can find some in business and technology, and you will find some in technology and design as well. But this is very, 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 this is an edge case. You mostly don't find people here, even though you can't find them. And I'm sort of in the middle here. And this is where I think you should also be, right? It doesn't mean that if you are not here in the middle where you is, it doesn't mean you are not good at what you do. No. So, I mean, I've been a developer at the point. I've been a system administrator. I've been a DevOps engineer. I've led sales conversations before. You know, I've been a designer. I actually started my career as a designer, right? So that's what, and it's not 1 year, 2 year journey. It's like a 4, 5 years journey, right? Before I finally found my core strength, and I decided to accumulate all the experiences I've gathered in business design and technology into one and be a product manager here, right? So your journey might not be like that, but I mean, it doesn't mean you can't learn. It doesn't mean you can't learn. So what do we do about the strong case for or against PMs having technical skills? There's really nothing you can do about it. Don't beat yourself up if you're not technical, right? You can learn the basics. That's all I'm trying to tell you. Technical skills are an asset to product managers on the condition that the product manager's focus remains on delivering the what. You know, we're all about the what. That's the value to the customer, right? Or the value to the business. As long as that is your focus, technical skills will always be an asset for you. But if a product manager has to survive with only one skill set, I can guarantee you that it won't be a technical skill. It won't be technical skills. It rather be customer impact. I mean, it rather be empathy, design, strategy, business, your ability to communicate. Those are things I believe you would survive on as a product manager, not necessarily your technical skills. And you know, empathy, something you gain from real life experiences. You don't need to be on a job to understand empathy or to have empathy towards something or someone. You know, if you can translate that into your product management career and have empathy for your users. Do you understand? Business, you don't have to be a developer to understand. In fact, most developers don't understand business, and that is not to shade anyone. I'm just stating facts. They just want to code. Some just want to code. They don't want to be bothered about the business aspect of things. And that's it. But more importantly, the things you need is your communication skills, your business analysis skills, your design skills. As a matter of fact, you don't even need to be a designer. Just understand design, understand user experience, have a very good affinity for aesthetics. You know, always want to make things beautiful. Those are things I believe you need more to survive as a product manager than having a technical skill or technical skills. You should be able to help to understand trade-offs and what having technical skills will do for you is it will help you to understand trade-offs that your developers make while building out a solution, while focusing on the how. It will help you to understand the trade-offs that they have to come up with so that you can clarify potential business opportunities. Because don't get involved too much in the technology because it is unhealthy. It's an unhealthy focus on the how. And by that, you are missing the entire point of product management. So please don't focus on the how, but you should, I would advise that you try to understand the how, right? Understand, I mean, get technical to some extent. So introduction to APIs. Like we rightly said in the comments, API refers to application programming interface. And I have a diagram here, and I would like to start from the bottom, the flow chart in the bottom instead of the one at the top. So the flow chart in the bottom illustrates something. You have a waiter at a Pizza Hut, right? And the pizza is working 24/7, turning out pizzas, you know, taking orders and all those things. So the pizza is there. You have yourself and your friend or your babe. You have yourself sitting. at a table waiting for your pizza, right? So the waiter, you either walk up to the waiter or the waiter walks up to you, right? And you check the menu and you make your order. Then the waiter takes your order to the kitchen. Then the kitchen processes your order. They make your pizza. Then the waiter collects it, brings the pizza from the kitchen to you. Then it delivers the pizza to you. That is exactly what happens with APIs. So you have your menu. You look at the menu for your pizza. You can see the kinds of pizza they have there. I'm not really a fan, so I really don't know the names. You can find the one with is it pepperoni flavor, or what do they call it now? The one that has cheese, chicken, beef. They have a lot of variants basically. So you can select what you want, and then the waiter takes it to the kitchen, collects the order, brings it back to you, right? That's the same thing that happens when you make API calls or when you request certain resources from the back end. So this is your API, yeah? That could be another person's API you are trying to access, right? And this is the backend system, the logic. It also consists of the database as well. So this drum you are seeing beside this shape at the background is like the database, right? Where the assets that will be called, that will be requested for by this mobile application, where they will be stored, okay? That's it we are seeing here. Then you have your logic in the server too. And this mobile application can make a request via this API to this server for resources. The server returns it, and the API, relays it to the mobile application. And then you make meaning of whatever you requested for, from the server. That's basically what APIs does. APIs do. They are there to help you make requests make requests from your client. Your client could be a mobile application, it could be your browser, it could be anything. They help you to make requests from your client and goes to your server, request for that thing, and then give you a response in return. That's why we have APIs. And the reason why we have this is because imagine a Facebook, imagine a YouTube, imagine a Twitter. They are sitting on data, huge chunk of data. And it has gotten to a point in this world that they have started making meaning of those data. They have found use cases for those data, and products are being developed daily, every day, based on those data. And to access them, Facebook cannot give you unrestricted access to their systems. So the essence of those APIs are to ensure that you are able to make a request for what you need and it is returned to you. Simple. That's why you have APIs today. Now, furthermore, there's a protocol through which API requests are made and responses are returned. So this is your client here. It could be your phone, it could be your laptop, it could be a smart wristwatch, it could be anything, any device, right? And it could be an application that needs data. So in this case, it's a laptop requesting facebook.com. You type facebook.com in your browser. The browser, through this protocol, hypertext transfer protocol, which is also known as HTTP, it goes to the server to make the request, and then the assets that are sitting behind the server are returned, and it is displayed in your browser. That is how you get most of the responses for things you request for on your server. I mean, through your clients, either your browser or your phone or anything you use to access the internet. So your client, like I said, there can be your browser, it could be your mobile app, and so on and so forth. Now, HTTP requests, they remain the foundation of the web, right? Your browser proves it to you. And in case you are not seeing HTTP in your browser, what you are seeing is HTTPS. HTTPS is a more secure version of HTTP. So in this version, your information is encrypted. If anybody tries to stand in the middle here to intercept whatever you are transferring between your server and your client, what they will see is gibberish. They won't see what you are, the exact information you are transferring. But on HTTP, they will definitely see what you are transferring, right? So that is why you can see today, virtually almost every website you visit today, or every backend systems you call, will always run on HTTPS. And it's very cheap to get these days. You don't need to break the bank to get an HTTP, to get a secure layer on your resources. We have an open source SSL foundation out there. Let's encrypt. With that, you can get SSL certificates cheap. And if you run in the clouds, take for instance AWS. If you run on AWS, you use most of the resources within AWS. If you use certain resources, you definitely have access to free SSL certificates via ACM, Amazon Certificate Manager. So that side is covered. You are secure. You are secured. Now, is there anyone who doesn't understand what we just explained about APIs and what it actually means and the protocol on which it runs? So let me quickly do a run through again or try to answer your question. If there's anybody like that, just signify by raising your hands, and Favor will pick you up and try to let you speak. Anyone? Anyone yet, Favor?
Nobody yet.
I guess they all understand, right? All right, good. So we've checked what are APIs, right? You've seen it. You can explain with an analogy to a 7-year-old or a layman who doesn't understand these technical terms. You should be able to explain to them now what APIs entail. You have a waiter in the middle, that is your API. And then you have a backend system, which is your kitchen. Then you have your user, which is the person who wants to buy the pizza. It makes a request via the waiter goes to the kitchen and brings back the order. That's the same thing that happens with APIs. You have your mobile application, your client, your browser, and makes a request to an API to an endpoint. The endpoint fetches the data is allowed to fetch from the database from the server and then returns it to your client. That's it, very simple. And the protocol on which this is based is HTTP protocol, hypertext transfer protocol. And is the foundation of the web. There's no doubt about it. There won't be web without HTTP. Now, API use cases. There are several use cases for API, and what we are trying to do here is find a business justification for APIs, okay? So there could be 3 scenarios for you to want to make use of APIs. One of such scenarios is when you are integrating to a third-party API. So take for instance, you are a, what do I call you now? You are a fintech app, or you are Uber. Yes, because I have Uber, I mean Google Maps here. You are Uber, and you want to be able to display the routes your riders travel on in your mobile application, right? You most likely need Google Maps or any other location service API. And you will want to integrate into that location service API because you can't build your own. It's expensive. Google Maps was not built in one day. It took years before it got to where it is today. Do you have that time? Do you have the funds to make that happen? You most likely don't. So what do? You find a service that is existing already, and as this API exposed to the public, either for a price or free. You know, there are open source APIs, there are free APIs, and there are paid commercialized APIs. So you look for what you want. If it suits your purpose, if it suits your need, you go ahead and use it, right? And that's what Uber, Bolt, and Co. did with Google Maps. So some of the use cases for Google Maps are, you visited websites where they have on their contact us page, they have a map there. That map was brought in via an API call. So it determines the location of the said entity that owns that website. Then, like I said already, I made use of Uber as an example. Create a transport Uber, blah, 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 blah. So That's one of the use cases for Google Maps API. So you can connect with other companies' APIs, which allows you or your product to fast track adding features, functionality, and tools, that would otherwise take you and your team years to build, like I said. So if you have worked with your team before on an integration with another API, please, I want to see your hands up. I really want to believe there are folks here who have actually dealt with what we are talking about today before. Is there anybody like that?
Yes, we have one person with, okay, thumbs up, a yes, yes in the chat.
Please let such a person on mute and tell us something, their experience, maybe not what they did, because that could be confidential, but their experience, how things went. Please, is there anyone willing to share?
Yeah, the mic is open if you would like to unmute. Okay, good. Ezekiel.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Ezekiel.
Yeah, so just to share an example for where I work, my company. Funny enough, we're even integrating with Global Accelerex API, basically because of the POS system that we're trying to build. So we're building a mobile app whereby it's a POS service where you can make card payment, and then, but we can't build it because we are basically making use of Global Accelerex, and we just need to like do a lot of integration just to have that POS VAS API integration. So that's just an example of an API product that we get to work with or we get to integrate with. Yeah.
Awesome, Ezekiel. Thank you. Any other person? All right, we'll move on fast. Yeah, so 2, you can build your own APIs for your internal use, for your internal consumption. So it's possible. There are cases where you build APIs for internal use only, right? So, and this could depend on what your product is or does, you understand? For some businesses, APIs are the, how do I put it now? APIs are the business, exactly. They are the value of the company. They are the value the company offers. APIs are the value the company offers. And the company cannot exist without these APIs, right? Such example, an example of such a company can be Twilio. How many of us know Twilio? It's a messaging service. It allows you to send SMS to anywhere in the world, do some other things around notifications, email notifications. I think maybe push notifications too. I can't remember anymore, but Twilio is one of such services. And when we come to Nigeria, we can say Mono is one of such services. Okra is one of such services. Why? Because their product is API based, it's solely API based, right? I'm so sorry about this. This shouldn't be here. It should be on the 3rd page, but because this page was duplicated, this is on the 1st page, rather. So there's a justification here for why you want to build APIs for internal use. If creating your own API means you are going to get a certain number of new clients, which means you achieve your quarterly growth targets, then it's worth considering, right? If it's a colleague's pet project that demonstrates no clear business value, then don't. How would you build an API for a project that does not offer any business value? So there could be a number of reasons why you have to build your own internal APIs. And if you found those reasons, convince your stakeholders to go ahead and let you guys build an API around it so that you can, offer more value and meet your business objectives. One thing I should also mention from this place is that there could be there are pros and there are cons to integrating with third-party APIs. One is it offers you speed to get to the market in time, right? It saves you costs. And the cons can be that you are overly dependent on third parties. And when those third parties are down, your service is most likely down too, except you have integration to more than one provider for that particular service. So when one provider is down, you can switch to another provider. But why do that? You understand? So one of the cons is that you could be down anytime your providers are down, and that is not good for your business, right? If their version changes, anything happens on their end about their API version, it affects you too. And if you don't change on time, it could mean trouble for you. So there are a lot of pros and cons. I will leave that to you to figure out the pros and cons with integrating with third-party APIs, so that when you get to that point where you need to integrate with any third-party API, you know what to look out for and how to edge against them. So you can build your own APIs for internal use. That is, you are dealing with internal customers and not external customers this time. That is what it means. Then also there is a situation where you build and expose your own APIs that you have built for internal use to your customers. And that is where you find companies like Mono and Paystack, Flutterwave, and so on and so forth. So what happens here? Let's look at Mono's use cases. With Mono, you can build more engaging personal finance solutions. You can simplify verification process by accessing real-time data. You can boost your risk assessment and with higher quality data. And then you can get real-time data to simplify your account reconciliation. There are APIs to cater for all of these use cases on Mono. Mono doesn't really use these APIs. They make these APIs available for customers, for developers, for companies, for financial solutions companies to offer as a service to their end users. So that's it. That's what happens. So as much as they are indirectly delivering value to the end user, most of the value that they will churn out would first affect whoever is integrating with them first. So consider a branch. For example, branch is integrating with Mono. The value, first of all, affects branch as a user of Mono before it affects the end users who are the users of branch or customers of branch. Let me know if that's not clear by raising your hands, please. Favor, just let me know if anybody raised their hands. Thanks. Now, Paystack, for example, also, Paystack is two. Okay, Samad Bayo. Can you unmute for Samad to talk? Favor.
Yes, Samad, go ahead and speak. Hello, Samad, you can unmute yourself.
I said I don't understand how branch customer will not be able to use Mono.
I didn't get that.
You said if Mono is operating, the branch will be able to use them. As in, can't them together we have branch and Mono. Can you hear me?
Samad, you are buffering. Can you talk now? Let's see if I can hear you.
Maybe it's network. I'm talking now.
I can hear you now.
I said you said branch and Mono cannot work together.
I didn't say that.
Oh God.
Okay,
I forgot my question.
let me explain what I said.
Explain again.
All right, good. Let me explain what I said. So I said Mono has several use cases for financial solutions company to leverage on. So take for example, a branch comes or any other fintech solution, let's say Bio Fintech comes and says, okay, I think Mono has an API I need. The value of Mono's API is meant to affect the end user, the customer of Bio Fintech, right? But the value, first of all, affects Bio Fintech. It first of all affects the users, the developers of Bio Fintech. It first of all affects the operational process of Bio Fintech before it finally affects the user, the end user, who is the customer of Bio Fintech. That is what I'm saying. So Mono has to take care of two things. They have to take care of the end user of their customers and they also have to take care of their customers. That is what I'm trying to say in simple terms. So as much as you are developing for your customers who are going to integrate with you, you are also developing in such a way that the life of the end user of your customers is made simple.
You understand?
Yeah, so those are the two value faces of API products, management. You understand what I'm trying to say in essence. So that's it. Then Paystack. I can use Paystack without having to do any integration with Paystack. And I can do an integration with Paystack to use Paystack, right? So there are two ways for me to use Paystack, and one is through integrations and one is through their portal. And as much as I can use Paystack, I can integrate it into my WordPress website, e-commerce website, Shopify, WooCommerce, and Co. I can also not do that and just collect payments right from the portal by using their default payment gateway, payment interface. So what that means for me is I can come as a normal customer and I can come as a developer to come and use Paystack. Does that make sense to you? So in essence, that means the APIs that Paystack is using herself to function as a business, other customers can also come and use it. That's what I'm trying to say in essence. So you can consider their payment API, you can consider their subscription-based payment API, their settlement API, account lookup, identity verification, a whole lot of them there. So you can find different use cases in lending, in betting, in ride-hailing apps, in e-commerce. You always find use cases for these APIs in those. You always find usage for those APIs in those sectors basically. So that's another way that APIs generate value, and it's so interesting that in this age there's virtually nothing you want to do that you won't need someone else's API, at least at the very simple level. Almost all systems in the world are communicating now. Your phone here can be communicating with a server in China, can be communicating with a server in Virginia, USA at the same time. You can be communicating with another server right in Nigeria here, right? Your GT Bank app, your Zenith app, they communicate with servers resident in NIPS, they communicate with servers resident in other fintech organizations at InterSwitch, just to facilitate payments. So the world is interconnected now, and it all happens on the basis of APIs. But we won't go into the details of the other aspects of API where you have SOAP, SOAP, and Co. We just focus on REST for now. So let's not go too far. Let's let's stick with the basics. So I have a chart here. I got this from API-GEE. It's an API platform bought by Google, I think like 2-3 years ago or thereabouts. So take a look at this very well. Let's start from here. You have your devices. You have an analytics dashboard. You have your smartwatch. You have your tab. Maybe your phone is also here. Your laptop is also here. And you have a developer partner. Let's say BioFintech is here. BioFintech has access to a developer portal, which was made available by this last three. One, two, three. This is a company that is offering API as a product. Is a company offering API as a product. And what you have here is a product that they have developed to make their API offering more valuable. So they came up with a developer portal like Paystack did, like Mono did, like Flutterwave did, like Okra did. So let's even take a look at the developer portal for these platforms I'm mentioning. So this is Okra. This is Mono. And let's see if I can get to their. So this is Paystack. The developer portal can also be for Paystack can also be used by any business. So if I go to settings I sure will see settings that is going to make the developer be able to make API calls. You're going to see something like this, blah, blah, and then moving into production. But let's take a look at Mono 2, in case you have not seen Mono before. I hope I have access. Yeah, this is Mono. And you can see, you can launch your demo. This is basically a developer portal, right? Because you can also manage your, what's it called now, your API keys right on this platform as well. So these are your sandbox credentials. You can join a community. You can read the API documentation, which is what I have open here, right? Just to get how to use these APIs, to understand their specification and make API calls successfully. So we'll get to that very soon, but still back to this. This is BioFintech. These are the users of BioFintech. These are the devices of those users. These are the clients. Then this is the developer portal made available by this company that has business assets. They have financial data of users. They have pictures of users. They have biometric data of users. They have a lot of things here sitting right here that BioFintech can use to offer more value to these customers. So you can see the data, the service, data service, data service, all of this secured, because you can see a lock here, well secured. And then this company decides that we think we can offer value, we can generate more value for our business if we find a way to offer this data to folks who can use it to build applications, and then we can make money from it. That is where you see this value, API monetization. So they bundle the product as an API product, then they create some policies around it, they generate a business model, they do rate plans, say, okay, we make 200 Naira per API call, or we make $2 per API call, and then we limit your API calls. Yeah, exactly. Metering. Metering means like, say, rate limiting, so that you don't accrue much cost, so that users don't abuse the use of the API. Because if you are paying 200 Naira per API call, you know, if 1,000 users make an API call in a day, that's 200,000 Naira per day on you, assuming you are not charging your users. So you want to limit the rate of calls to that API, so that when you are done for the day, you are maxed out. That service will not, be making API calls until the next day. There are services that run that way, and they have this monetization strategy in place, and they build a portal around it to offer value. That is why you have this. And then BioFintech integrates, and then they are able to offer value based on the data sitting in the business assets to their customers. So that's it on API value stream. Now, so what to know about API? So your developers are talking, they are mentioning some terms, and you're wondering what's going on. Do they want to sell me? No, they are not trying to sell you. They are trying to communicate in the language they best understand. And one of such terms is requests and responses, right? So very descriptive enough. You request something in a specific format as outlined in the API documentation, and the API responds with something in return. So let's quickly demo that with the documentation we have here. So you have an authentication API. Let me find the proper. Right. So this is a GET request to get the wallet balance of the user. And this is what happens here. Hmm? Come in. Hold on, please. So you have a get request to get the balance in a wallet, right? This is the endpoint. This is the request, and this is the endpoint. I mean, this is the response. The balance is what? 10,000 naira. And that goes for several other things. So say you have a transaction, you are trying to get status of a transaction, you are trying to get some details about a particular transaction. So you make a request, you know, transactions have references or IDs. You enter the ID of that transaction here, and you make a request to the transactions endpoints, right? And then it returns this data. This is your response. You have a total of 190 transaction data, blah, blah, blah. You know, this is page 2. You know, this is the previous page. You know, if the data is paginated, this is the next page. If the data is paginated, then the data on the first page, on the page you are on currently, the ID of the transaction, the amount that was transacted, the timestamp, date and time, then the narration, transfer to blah, 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 blah. Then type, is it debit or credit? Then category, e-channels. You know, this is the metadata of this particular transaction that you are returning. And then you can display this on the table or you know, for your user to be able to see, okay, these are the details of this transaction I carried out, blah, 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 blah. That's it. That's what happens. So you have a request and you have a response. This is your request and this is your response. That is what it means. So you have a specified format. Based on this documentation, there's a specification, there's a way they are expecting you to make a request to get data. And if you follow this specification, you will get the right data, which is what you have in this block. So this state of representing data is what you call JSON, JavaScript Object Notation. This is a way to represent data when it comes to APIs. There is also XML, you know, but I mean, this is most common these days, although XML is also being used widely, very well used. So this is one way to return data to a user. Then you can now choose what you want from this data that is returned. That is your payload. You can now choose to say, okay, what I want from this data is just the narration. This narration is your payload. Every other thing is useless to you in this context, right? We'll get to those terms, don't worry. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, so I've tried to explain requests and responses. Now, REST stands for representational state transfer. And while it sounds ridiculous, right? It is used, it's scary. It is used to describe a set of architectural principles and characteristics. So let's think of REST as a set of rules. So you are joining a group, right? And then they have a set of rules, and that if you follow these rules, you will be able to join this group. That's basically what REST means. So if you follow these rules, you will be able to use this API. And an API that follows this pattern is referred to as a RESTful API. RESTful API. So there are things I want you to take note of when you are dealing with a RESTful API. They are resource-based. And what do we mean by resource? We can consider resource in that sense as a noun. It could be a person, the details of a person, the biodata of a person. It could be a PDF document, it could be an image, it could be an address, it could be a location data, it could be anything. These are all known as resources, right? Then there is what we call representations. So representation is the way this data is represented. It's the way the data is presented to you. And like I said earlier on, we have some formats. We have the JSON format, and then there's also XML, which is another representation of the same resource. So, but we won't be looking, let's stick with JSON format for now. So if you are using API calls, the response you get back is a representation of the resource that is transferred between the client and the server. So C is your constraints, and there are 6 constraints, right? And we'll go over them. So constraints are applied to RESTful architecture. So, and what these constraints, what they specify are the things you need to comply with in order to maintain a RESTful API. So number one is uniform interface. What do we mean by uniform interface? Any programming language should be able to make an API call, regardless of the language your service, your application is written in. Any other resource written in any other programming language must be able to make a call to your API and get a response. So you don't have a situation where, okay, this API was written with Python, so the only programming language or the service that can make a call to this API is a Python service. No, there's nothing like that. Java can call it, JavaScript can call it, PHP can call it, Golang can call it, any other programming language or service can call it as well. So that is what you mean. That's what it means for your API to have a uniform interface. So let me go back, sorry. So there are the HTTP protocol, resources, which are the things you need to be able to access. Then your HTTP verbs, they're also known as the method, yeah. So you see get, put, post, delete. We'll get to this very soon. Then your API should be stateless. Each request must have enough information for the server to process the message. So you are requesting for transaction ID and your request does not have a transaction ID. You can't expect to get the response, the right response. So your request must be detailed enough for the server to process the message and give you a response. That's what it means. Then you must maintain a client-server architecture. What this means is that there's no direct connection to the database, right? You don't make a direct call to the database. You go through a service, more like a middleware, so that you can access, so that the folks who want to access your API can access it in a secure manner, and they don't just mess things up for you. Then your API, your server responses must be catchable. Who can explain what catching means? You can drop your definition in the comments or raise your hands to explain, please. I really want to get feedback from you. Class has been silent for a very long time. Anyone? Favor, anyone raise their hands yet? Okay, I will try and explain what catching means. It's basically storing the data that has been collected in your own way, right? So you've made a request to a server via an API, and then it has given you a response. You should be able to catch that response for some reasons. Say you want to make such call again, you don't have to go to that server. You don't have to go to that API again to go and access that same resource. You can as well access it from where it has been cached to. So it limits the number of times you have to make API calls, and it will reduce your costs drastically, considering server resources, right? So that's what they mean by caching. They also cache stuff in the browser. That is why you see that sometimes your browser could have used up to 1 gig in memory, because it has cached a lot of resources in the storage, in the browser storage. And if I access Facebook today for the first time, if I'm accessing it tomorrow, my browser will not go to Facebook for certain resources again. It will pick them up from my browser storage. It reduces the page load time. It reduces the bandwidth I use to access Facebook. So that is why catching is very important and very beneficial. If you are conversant with the fintech industry, when NIBS and the CBN released the, should I call it a circular, or what do they call it now? You know, there are these terms around fintech. So they released the circular that says it's only banks that can integrate to, that can do BVN verification now. And no fintech or API product should offer BVN validation or BVN verification as a service any longer. And they yanked everyone off except the banks. You would have heard that some folks were saying, thank God they were catching BVN data of their customers, you know. They were able to make use of. So at the point, folks were already thinking of a solution around it, like, you know, making the cached BVN data available so that all the others can still make calls for BVN verification without having to go to NIPS. That's one of the reasons why they catch data. In some cases, it is allowed. In some cases, it's not allowed. But I mean, if what you are exposing is something that clients don't have to come to you for every time, you should make it catchable. Excuse me, I want to take a little rest. So your API, your RESTful API should be a layered system, right? Should be a layered system. It should be some of your resources that are sensitive or very, very important should be abstracted away from the public, and let users get to the real juice instead of bothering them with unnecessary details or exposing yourself to risks, security risks. Then code on demand. I won't bother you with this because it's more of a developer thing. So let's just leave it at that. Now, number 3, HTTP methods. You have HTTP methods, and those are post, get, put, delete. There are more, but these are the basic 4. And the post is used to create new resources. So consider you're trying to post a message to a recipient. You will use the post method when you are making that API call. So let me bring up the Mono documentation again so you can see. This is a GET request. Why? Because you are trying to get the details of a transaction. Now let's look at a post request. This is a post request because you are trying to make a payment, right? You are trying to initiate a payment. That is why it is a post request. So the action you are trying to carry out will determine the method you are going to use, whether it's a get, post, put, or delete method. So the get method is used to read or retrieve a representation of a resource. So when you perform the get method, the response contains the information you requested. And you remember we said earlier on that your RESTful API must have a representation, right? You must be able to make a call and get the right response. Then your put is used to update or replace data. So consider you are trying to change your user's email address. That is when you use the put method. Then delete is used to delete the data. Endpoints. So an endpoint is a place, right? It's a place in the resource your client is trying to access. And it is a connection point which accepts requests to access resources on an API. So take, for instance, back to the Mono API. Why am I using Mono today? This is an endpoint. And what this endpoint does is it initiates a payment, right? So this is a place in your resource. And what the user is doing is he's trying to make a call to initiate a payment. And that's it. If you try it, because I'm not authenticated, I won't be able to carry out the payment, unfortunately. We'll get back to that later. So we need to expose an endpoint so that it can be called. An endpoint you did not expose cannot be called, cannot be used. And that is why if in your code base, you don't want some certain endpoints to be used by certain certain clients, you don't expose those endpoints, especially in your documentation and as well on the back end as well. So your users cannot access it and maybe it's internal to you only. So you can think of this as a door which can be opened or a socket which you can plug yourself into and get what you want, right? So that's what you mean by an endpoint. Okay. So API documentation, you've seen what it looks like. It's just a set of instructions on how to use a particular API. And if you use it according to the instructions, you are going to get the right response. Simple. So this is a documentation. This is another documentation by Paystack. This is Okra's documentation. Right? So you can read it and understand the API and see how you can use it as a developer. Then this is a Paystack documentation for anything you feel, for anything you want to do. You're not the one that is going to do the integration, so don't be scared, don't bother yourself. Just understand the basics. That's what we're trying to say. So this is your request and this is your response. We are trying to create a subscription plan, right? You name the subscription, is an object. You name the interval, you give it an interval and the amount to be subscribed monthly. So Paystack is going to come back with a response that says the payload, the message plan was created, then the payload, the name of the plan, the interval, the amount, integration, domain, whether it's test or production, the currency, the plan code, invoice, blah, 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 all these details. And then you are fine. Then you can use this, display it on the dashboard, in your mobile application, to the customer, and everybody's happy. Well, I can subscribe on this service now, not knowing that they are using Paystack to power that service. So that's what happens. Now, API calls, as the name suggests, we are making calls in order to get a response. So this is not a telephone call. So it involves hitting an endpoint with the expectation that the API will respond with the information you need. Then payloads. Sometimes this payload, you hear it a lot. If you have heard payload a lot, please, can you indicate in the chat? Just say yes. Say yes to payload. I want to hear your response. You must have heard payload a lot being used by your developers. So you might be wondering, what is this payload? Let me see the chat. I can see responses already. Yes. So you must have heard payload a lot, and you might be wondering, what is payload? What is payload? Payload is it refers to the meaningful information in a given set of data. So it's just a fancy way of talking about the response from an API. You understand? So it refers to the meaningful information in a given set of data. You have to know that not everything in an API response is what we care about. So the term is mostly used to distinguish between the stuff we are interested in and the stuff we are not. In this case, yes, we know the status is okay, but the data we are really interested in is this message welcome word. So this is our payload, and this is what we are going to use in our application. So that's it, basically. That's what it means. So the rest of the information is referred to as the overhead data. So this is the overhead data, and the payload is this. So response codes, we are going to limit it to just 4. There are more, under these last three especially. So we have 200. When you see response code 200, it means success. Yay, our call was successful. Like this status okay now is a status 200, is a response, I mean, is a code 200, basically. Then we have 301, which could mean that the resource you are looking for has been moved permanently. Then you have error 400, which is mostly a user error. You can see a set of error 400 errors, error 401, error 403, error 404. There are a whole lot of them out there. You can Google error codes, response codes, HTTP response codes. If you Google it, you're going to find a whole lot of them out there. But just know that anything that starts with a 4 is what? Is a user error. And anything that starts with a 5 is a server error. So when you are trying to access a resource and you are getting 500, be rest assured that the issue is not with you. So if your developer tells you I'm getting 500 on this particular endpoint and I don't know what's happening, what are they doing? Maybe you are trying to do an integration and they're asking you, and your developer is saying, why is this guy's API returning error 500? Don't think the developer does not know what he's doing. So far, the API is not your API. The fault is not with you. If you are doing an integration with another party and you are getting 500 while calling the API, it is not your problem. You are not the one at fault. The best you can do is notify them you are getting a 500 and they try to fix it at their end. So it is a server error, not your error. If you are getting a client, 400, it's most likely your fault. Or maybe they didn't allow you to access some type of resource you are trying to access. Or maybe you are not authenticated. That is why you are getting a 400. So it could be for a number of reasons, but it is mostly a user error. For 500, it's a server error. Error 500, 503, 505, all the Pidgeot version 504. Don't mind me. So that's it about response codes. Then you have headers. For you to interact with an API and for you to establish a connection with that API, you need to tell the API you're not just someone out there. You are genuine, you are real, you are the original user who is trying to access this resource. That is what you mean by authorization. So consider the way you will all log into your email client with your username and password. The same thing you have to do for an API. You have to use the authorization. That will include your authentication credentials, such as your username and password, right? Then your, what's it called now? Your content type. So the server would ask you, we want to know how you want to access this resource or how the information is presented back to you. And it's mostly JSON. Then the timestamp, the date the request is made, the date of the request or response. Now, so let's go into the our browser, our console. I want to show us something quickly. Let's use Mono. Am I logged in? Somewhere I'm logged in. Okay. No, let's use Paystack. Okay. So if you come to the network tab, these are the power tools your developers use that make them feel like God. It's nothing serious. Just right click, come to inspect. You are going to see this console. And there you can see how, if you have been wondering how your web pages are being rendered, the same code that was written and deployed to the server is what you can see here. But because the browser has the capability to interpret HTML data, HTML code, that is why you are HTML and CSS codes. That is why you are seeing this interface in your browser, which makes more sense to you than this gibberish, this code that is here. So you have your elements, you have your console that shows some error in case there are errors. Then you have your sources, which just shows where your resources that are being displayed on this in this browser, where they are being made from, where they are being called. So you have amplitude, which means Paystack uses amplitude to, they probably, it's like standing over your shoulder to see what you do in order to know whether you are having issues using their platform or not. So the tool they are using is called amplitude. And Amplitude is a product from for product analytics, basically. So they can tell at what point on in your user journey you're having a problem, right? So these are the products. They give you Amplitude Analytics, which allows them with the help of an integration to identify the challenges you have with using their platform. So it helps them to understand you better, improve your experience, optimize your outcome, and accelerate your information, right? So they get to see such things as your behavioral data, what are our most used features, who are our high value customers, how many people engaged and converted. Those are some of the things that Amplitude allows them to see. And it means Paystack takes their users seriously and they take their product metrics seriously. Headway is used to announce new features, right? Loom, I'm not sure they are the ones using Loom. Maybe I can't know. Maybe they are the ones. I don't know why they use them, but I mean Cloudflare, for some other things they do as well. Datadog, Datadog for application performance monitoring. Then Google Analytics, you all know what Google Analytics does. So these resources Paystack uses, they necessarily are not monitoring, they are trying to monitor their products, but in the process, some of the activities need to be monitored in order for them to serve you better. That's just what it means. Then if you come to network, this is where you see the API calls that are being made. And if you click on all, you won't get what you need. So to get what you need, you click on XHR to give you the juice of the matter. So if I do a refresh here, what will happen is that the API calls that are being made to display data on this browser will be displayed here. So you are going to see something like, I don't need this. This is Datadog. Sorry, let me refresh again. What's the time? It's 5:28, okay. So I don't need this. I don't need this. Aha. So you can see this. Data none, because I've not used this particular account before. I think I have an account I've used. This is Headway. So they go to Headway dashboard, they enter the new updates that have been made. Then with an integration on the front end, they are able to display this data. You can see how powerful APIs are. So Paystack does not have to write another service that will help them manage their change logs to announce updates to their customers. They just make use of Headway. So if I click on this link now, it takes me to Headway. You can see how powerful APIs can be. In case you have never used it before, in case you don't understand, now you know better. So you can see these APIs here now. I mean, these their latest changes. So this is how Paystack manages changes basically. And I recommend this to anyone who is building a web product. You don't need to stress yourself in order to, let users know what you have done. Change logs are very important for users because it tells them the latest improvements. If you are trying to update your application or your operating system on your phone, you get to see the new changes in the new updates so that you know what the benefits for you when you perform these updates or upgrade. So it's very important that users see change logs. And these are things we don't take seriously in this part of the world. Kudos to Paystack. If you can clap where you are, clap. so you have to take, I mean, you should be customer obsessed. You should be obsessed about your customers, basically. So what brought us here? I want to try and log in into another account that I've used for tests before. Okay. Let's hope I'm able to log in. I think I forgot the password already. Okay, I think I performed a transaction on this account once. Yeah. Let's hope I find the transaction. Oops, I don't find it. Anyways, so it's been long I performed this transaction. That's interesting. I really want to show you a data, and I can't use live data, I'm sorry. Okay, maybe not these accounts. Oh, not this account, sorry. Aha, yeah, you can see. Let's refresh the page again to be sure we are getting the amount of data we need to get. So this is how your developers, this is how they find out some of the things they do when they make API calls. So you can see now, let's enter these endpoints one by one. This is not what we need, no. So you can see the status is true, the message dispute retrieved, data on disputes, none is null. But if you look here, you are going to see that there's a page. Where this page is, I don't know. But let's go to totals. You can see more data here. So there are no pending transfers. There are pending transfers by currency, none. Then you can see the amount, blah, 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 total volume by currency. Because Paystack displays amounts in kobo. That is why you are seeing 10,000 kobo. This is 10,000 kobo and not naira. So you can convert 10,000 kobo to naira, you have 100 naira, which is on the dashboard here. That's just what it's telling you basically. So you can see the data. And where is the endpoint? Let's go to our headers. You can see your header. This is the request URL. This is the URL we used to make the request, right? Then the method we use is get. Remember get. Then the status code is 200. This is the address of, this is the IP of the Paystack server. And then these are the response headers. This is the request header. You know, when we made the request, this is the header, and this is the rest. Oh, sorry. This is the general headers, rather. Then when we made the request, this is the request header. The authorized URL is stack.co, method is get, path. Then the scheme is UCPS, obviously. Then it accepts JSON. Encoding, this gzip just helps to compress data so that the bandwidth used to return that data is not much, and then latency is reduced. If you are wondering what latency means, latency is how long it takes for you to get a response from a request you made to a server. So it's taking you like 20 seconds before you get a response. That means there's a high latency for that particular request, and it could be for a number of reasons. Maybe there's too much load on that server, or because of poorly written code. So you should take care of this. You should know these things so that you don't get bamboozled, please. So in case you are working with developers that are not so professional or do not know their onions well, you should be able to call them out on some of these things. Now, your totals. Okay, this is same endpoint. So this is your request header, like we were saying. Then your origin. What are you using? The authentication mode is JWT. This is your authorization. Sorry, this thing is very dangerous. Especially if you are working in production, don't release it to anybody. I'm probably going to close this account after I'm done with this training because of this that has been exposed. So that's just it basically. If you are trying to figure out what headers means, this is what headers means. Just contains the metadata of the request and responses you have made. Then you can see some other endpoints around trends. You can preview trends, you know, showing you data from January, from March 1st of March 2018 till now. That's what it's showing you basically. And because arrays don't return, computers don't start counting from 1, they start counting from 0. That is why you are seeing 0. So when you are reviewing anything technical, you are seeing 0. It is because computers don't count from 1, they count from 0. So this is 40 and not 39, right? If you count from 0 to 39, this is 40 items here in this array, and not one item. I'm not 39 items. So I just thought to mention that as well. Then around performance, transaction categories retrieved successfully, blah, 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 you know. That's it basically. Around requests and responses, and, you know, just to delve in deeper into it. Authentication. You know, the same way you would authenticate yourself when logging into your email account or your Facebook account. You need to do something similar for accessing APIs. So if you have an external facing API which needs to be accessed by clients, they will typically be issued with a security token and credentials, which they will need to use to access your API. And that is what Mono did here. If you check the Mono dashboard again, you're going to see something similar. So these are your authentication details for Mono. So if you know the endpoint to use to make API calls to Mono, the base URL rather, the base URL is like this. So I didn't have base URL as part of the things I mentioned as terms, but just for you to take note, api.paystack.co is the base URL. So whether you are in production or sandbox, the only thing that will change is this base URL. Every other thing after, in production or sandbox test environment, they will remain the same. So the only difference is that if Paystack has a sandbox environment, the base URL could be api-sandbox.paystack.co. That is how you know the base URL for sandbox or production. That's what it just means. And you can also find it here. Base URL. Back to Mono. So if you know the base URL to access Mono API, you are good with this username and password. That is just what it means. That makes sense to you? So take note though, authentication proves who you are. Authorization defines the what you are permitted or authorized to do. So the fact that you have access to an API does not mean you can access every resource on that server. Authorization is what makes sure that you are only able to access what you are permitted to access. And that will be all for today. So I said I was going to mention some things also. Let me quickly go through them before I open up the floor for questions. There are certain things I didn't touch on, and that is because this is not really about API product management. It is about APIs for product managers. So if you want a masterclass on, and this is on me, of course, Treford will help, but if you want a masterclass on API product management, or probably would distill it in a course that we can take extensively later on, you can indicate in the chat box, or Favor can spin up a poll to get details. You understand? So one of the aspects I didn't touch on in this presentation is API health and monitoring. There is such thing as API health, and I'm going to display that quickly. I think it was Okra, or was it Paystack? I think it's either Okra, no, Atlassian. It should be Bitbucket. These Atlassian guys, they have a portal where you can view the API health, the health of your APIs, basically, where users can see the health of your APIs. So let's scroll down. If an ideal API platform will have it. Paystack does. I can't just find the link. I know Paystack does. Yeah, status page, exactly. AWS, Amazon has it too. Any standard API platform should have this, right? Tells you what services are available at the moment. So operational, their API health, throughput, response time. Are there any incidents lately? None. So, this is the standard. You shouldn't go below this. If you are considering a career in API program management, please, these are things you should take care of. I mean, you should make sure your developers are aware of. They know, but, amidst the several other activities that they have to embark on, they might not have the time to spin up initiatives like this. So you can see when they have, Paystack is very accountable to their users. Please, can you give them a thumbs up? Please clap for them. So when there are issues, you can read about the issue, update about it, how they investigated it, and the eventual outcome. Basically, there was a time Ezra did a an incident report, and it was widely accepted in the industry. Like it's trended for a very long, for like weeks, on what is expected from companies to their users. So these are the ways you can step up your game, and I trust you'll do great. So that's just it. API health and monitoring is very important. Your developers know how to track these metrics for health and monitoring. And there are tools that can also be used, just so you don't know. If you have heard your developers mention New Relic or Datadog, like I checked just, Paystack has in their source. New Relic is for application performance monitoring, and so is Datadog. So they help you monitor the performance of your application, especially your cloud applications. So you can just, with a simple line of code, you can install New Relic agent on your server, and then it will pick up performance of your server. You can see. I used it at a point when I was a DevOps engineer, and I so much love New Relic. I've used it to, troubleshoot a particular issue in the production environment around latency before as well. And it's worked really well. It's worked really well. So in case you're wondering, how do they test APIs? You use Postman, an API client called Postman to test APIs. And you must have heard your developers mention Postman too. I tried it in Postman and it worked. And then the QA is saying, for God's sake, this thing is not working. You can log in yourself and check. And you are wondering, like, what are these people saying? So we have heard of Postman before. This is the Postman website. It is used for testing your API. It's an API client. You can automate tests within Postman. You can do a whole lot of things. This is the interface. This is how it looks. So the body means this is the response you are getting when you made a call. This is the body, request body rather. This is your request body, and then the response will be somewhere after you have made a call by clicking this blue that is here. I'm so sorry I don't have a Postman up today. It just occurred to me now, and I had to mention it. Then also very important is your API metrics. Your API metrics are those metrics that determine the performance, how well your API is performing. So consider stuff around on New Relic here. You can use it to determine the performance of your APIs. And if you go to Paystack status page, there's something around API. Yeah, these are metrics. So it's like 16,000 requests per minute. It tells you that API, their server is optimal, right? The average is 13,000 requests per minute. It can be higher than that, but the average, at one point today, on June 13th, today around 11 a.m., probably people were trying to pay offering in church. I want to believe that is the reason why there was an outlier here, 19,000 requests. Right? So so some of these behaviors, some of these reports can unveil a lot of things. You can see how I guess that the reason why we had a spike here is because probably people were trying to pay offering in church, which could be or may not be the case. But these are how events affect the performance of your servers. These are how events determine how well you are doing in certain periods. So you can imagine on Black Friday in November, it's going to be like triple or times 10 of what you see here. So let's even backdate to November. Oh, is there a way to do that? No. Oh no, there's no way to do that. We can't select a custom range, unfortunately. But I bet you if you could go back to November 2020, you will notice that request per minute to be higher than 14,000 naira. 14,000 that it is right now. Then the same for your API response. So at the point it was taking, so the normal, it was taking 22,000 milliseconds for an API to return a response. There's probably an issue here on that day. That is why you can see there are outlier moments. This is on May 29, this is on May 22 or so. You know, the normal response time is like 496 microseconds. So the average is 659 microseconds, less than a second. Kudos to, let's start again, I beg. Give it to them. You know, they are detailed in their, and very transparent in their offerings. So it's a good one. That's what is expected of an API platform, basically, because you are not only dealing with end users, you are dealing with businesses who are servicing those end users as well. So your rate of accountability has to be top notch. API versioning. There's such thing as API versioning, and what it means is when you see some API endpoints, you will see V1, V2. I don't know if you have encountered something like that. Unfortunately, yeah, you can see this is called API versioning. So what it does is it's a best practice, and what it does is it gives your customers the confidence to use any version of your API. So if they don't see the need to use version 2, they can still be using version 1. And if you feel they need to use version 2, you don't just update your APIs and say we have updated blah 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 blah, and then it remains on V1, and then their data, their format has been scattered, everything on their system has been scattered. They now have to start reintegrating with you. It doesn't make any sense. So instead of scattering the things by tampering with V1, just create another folder on your server for V2 endpoints, and then you are good to go. That's the best way to go around things. So that is what they mean by API versioning, right? I hope that explains it very well. So I'm going to open the floor for questions. I have like 13 minutes to go. So please, if you have questions, I'm ready to take them.
Thank you so much, Ayotunde. Thank you so much, Ayotunde. So I'm going to allow the mics to, I'm going to unmute the mic so we can ask our questions now. You can also ask your questions in the chat box. If you have any questions you want to ask. It's been a very deep dive session on APIs for product managers, you know, understanding the basics so you're not lost in that process at all. So yes, if you have questions, things you want to clarify, now is the moment. Let it not pass you by. So any takers for the questions, contributions? Okay, I can see Richard. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks Ayotunde for the insights. Really nice. Yeah, I want to ask. So based on API versioning, so let's say a company moves or creates like a folder for like a version 2 while there's still a version 1. How do users or businesses, since you say they won't need to integrate from scratch, how do they move over to the version 2?
They just change their base URL when they are making API calls to V2 instead of V1, and they are fine. You can see how simple it is. It's very easy for users to do if the API providers know what they are doing.
Okay, thank you.
So Okoyemi is asking something in the chat. My question is on the cache you spoke about. When clients clear their cache, can it still be called up from the storage? No, it can't, because it has been cleared already. I guess that's straightforward enough. All right, who else?
Any questions from anyone in the house? Contributions, clarifications needed at any point? All right. With that, I think we can, if there are no questions anymore. Oh, Okoyemi says he didn't hear your response clearly, but I believe what Ayotunde said is you won't be able to access it since the user has already cleared their cache.
Thank you.
Able to, yes, all right. Okay, Mr. Ariyo, I guess you want to ask a question or make a contribution? Okay, in the absence, I don't seem to hear anything. Hello.
Please, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I joined the class late, so I don't know if you have already touched on this question, but just for clarity purpose. Now, when working with API, so how does the payment look like? Like, for example, I need to use an API for NIPS. So for NIN verification, NIN verification and the rest. So is there a payment to that, or these things are just free to use?
No, they are not free to use. So in the case of say NIN identity, NIN verification, what happens is you probably have to pre-fund the wallet with NIBS or whoever is responsible for the API provisioning. You pre-fund the wallet with them and they tell you, okay, if you want to make a verification, it is 10 naira per successful verification. So as your users that are using your application and making API calls to verify their NIN, your wallet with that provider is getting depleted every time they make successful API calls to verify their NIN. So that's how payment for that would typically go. But in a case where you are doing, well, in almost all cases, that's what happens. Well, there are some that it is at the end of the month when you are done calling the APIs that they will charge you, right? There are cases like that, but it's not so common in Nigeria, if I'm correct. It's not so common, at least not yet. In most cases is based on transaction because fintech take over, right? So most cases, it's almost always based on transactions. You understand? Or per call, per API call. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ayotunde, for giving us an answer to that.
So I will drop, sorry, Favor, I will drop certain links to some resources that you can check on your own in the chat. I'm so sorry, very crude, but that's how, I have it outlined in my notepad here. So I'm just going to paste the link here so you can go and check those resources. And I'm sure they will lead you to other resources that are going to help you further as well. So again, don't feel overwhelmed. There could be some cognitive overload if you are being exposed to this for the first time. Just take it one step at a time. Don't digest so much information at a go. Pick one. When you feel, if you feel it's not helping you, well, you can move on to something else. And based on your learning pattern, you might want to find resources that are aligned to your learning pattern. So if you learn better with videos, you're better off watching YouTube videos. If you learn better while you read, you can, find blogs or articles that explains APIs in detail. So please, that's it. So I've dropped the links. You can go check them out later. Jennifer has her hands raised.
Jennifer, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I joined a little late. I don't know if you had touched on the difference between REST and SOAP APIs, but if you haven't, please can you just?
I only touched on REST, right? I didn't discuss SOAP because I mentioned it while talking that let's just focus on REST. Let's not bother ourselves on SOAP. But for your since you asked, SOAP means standard communication. It's a standard communication protocol system basically. And sorry, let me find the meaning. The full meaning for you. Yeah, simple object access protocol. Exactly. Simple object access protocol. That's what SOAP stands for, and it's a more advanced way of specifying APIs of API specifications. This is more used in enterprise environments. Consider the bank, the government institutions. You find more of SOAP than you will find REST. Yeah, basically. It's been around for some time, so a lot of folks tend to rely more on that, especially enterprise guys, than they do on REST. That's it. So, I bet you most likely would interface with REST APIs most of the time. And even if you are interfacing with SOAP, it's very easy to integrate with. So there's no problem around integration at all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Ayotunde. And with that, I can say a big thank you. So please, let's go ahead into the chat box and thank Ayotunde so much for this session. Like, alongside that, use the reactions button to just stream some love. This has been a very insightful session on, API for product managers. And yes, also, while after we let the reactions keep coming in. Also, Ayotunde said on him, like, he has even given the open call, like, if you guys want something more elaborate on APIs for API product management. Now, this was APIs for product managers. So you're a product manager, you're working with people, you're working with API, you want to have an understanding. Your developer does you want to do API product management, something even much deeper. Let know in the chat box right now. Depending on the response and the feedback, we can pick up the conversation and we can start working on something, something maybe just like a weekend long boot camp or full masterclass, like a full 3-day masterclass or 2-day masterclass, where we just come together and we just discuss API product management at length, with Ayotunde and probably even so many other awesome guys and gents, ladies, and well, you get the gist, really. So thank you so much. Okay, that's another yes to the API product management. Yes, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ayotunde. Really, really appreciate. So just so you know, this is part of the June. This is another masterclass in the June series. We have masterclasses all June. This is the 3rd out of 7 masterclasses we have in June, which is all free. 3 done, 4 to go. We have driving conversion with A and B testing coming up next weekend, Saturday. We also have framing for product managers. After we have the Adobe XD Masterclass and navigating a UI UX design interview. So all across June, we have something for you, Then all these sessions are being recorded and are available on YouTube. So you can, some of you will be asking, can I get a copy of the slides right now? Can I access the recording? Yes, it's available on YouTube, right? I'm just going to go ahead right now and share the YouTube live stream to this particular session. So you can just bookmark it, save it, and you can follow us on our social media handles for more updates. So yes, stay tuned. We have a lot more coming from you. I don't know if Ayotunde has any last words, any Jedi last words to give us as we round up the session. Any Jedi last words, Ayotunde?
Just stay cool. I mean, keep breaking things. Keep setting the pace. I mean, I really don't have anything to say.
No problem. Thank you so much. We'll take the breaking part. I don't know. I want to take that, but setting the pace, we'll take that. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. It's been an awesome time with you all. Do have a great week ahead of you. Take the advice, break a few things, create a few things, then set the pace.